Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to take a concept you think you know, resurrection, and completely flip it on its head.
So, let's just kick things off with a pretty wild question. What if resurrection isn't something that happens to you way off in the future? What if it's a spiritual upgrade happening inside you, like right now?
Okay, so here's our game plan. We'll start by rethinking the whole death and resurrection thing, then dig into what death really means according to this perspective. After that, we'll talk about the collapse of the ego, super important, and then the resurrection into a new mind. And finally, what does life even look like after all this?
All right, first things first. We got to completely shift our perspective here. The core argument is that, well, maybe we've been looking at this whole thing backwards. We tend to think of resurrection as this future event for our bodies, right? But what if it's actually about a transformation of our minds, something that can happen today?
And let's be super clear. This has nothing to do with biology. It's more like a blueprint for a deep, personal transformation. The journey isn't from a physical grave to physical life. Nope, it's an internal shift, a change in your whole state of being.
Okay, so if resurrection is this inner thing, then what's this death we're supposed to rising from? I mean, it's not what you think. To really get the rebirth part, we first have to unpack what the source material says death actually is.
And wow, this slide lays it out perfectly. On one hand, you have the conventional view, death is when your body stops working. Simple. But look at the interpretation from our source. It calls death ideological isolation. Think about that. It's a state of being completely walled off, trapped in the prison of your own ideas and your own rightness.
Okay, and this is where it gets super vivid. The source brings in this amazing metaphor, the stubborn ox. You can just picture it, right? It's symbolized by the Hebrew letter aleph. This ox is that part of us that is just so convinced it's right, so buried in its own knowledge and religious habits that it's just impossible to teach. It's the ego in full-on defense mode.
Even the original language gives us some big clues here. The Greek word nekros, it doesn't just mean a physical corpse. It's also used to describe anything that's spiritually lifeless or inactive. You've heard the phrase, faith without works is dead, right? The faith isn't a body, but it's totally powerless. So the argument here is that death has always had this second meaning, a state of just spiritual stagnation.
So that brings us to the real turning point in this whole journey. If death means being trapped by your own ego, then to be resurrected, you have to face that ego head-on. This is the hard part, the necessary death of the self before any kind of rebirth can happen.
And listen, this isn't described as some gentle, easy process. Not at all. The source calls it spiritual surgery. It kicks off with a confrontation, where some new truth just comes in and shatters your old worldview. Then it talks about these symbolic 3 days and nights, where that new truth gets stronger and all the old false programming gets completely scrubbed away.
This quote really just nails it. The tool for this surgery? It's truth, the deep meaning of the word, acting like a sword. And it doesn't just chip away at your ego. No, it completely demolishes the fortress of your fixed ideas, that stubborn ox, and grinds it all to dust. Pretty intense.
Okay, so once that old self has been taken apart, what rises up to take its place? This is it. This is the big reveal of this whole interpretation. It's not about your body, it's all about your mind.
This is pretty cool. The source points to a kind of hidden code in the very first word of the Bible, Bereshit. It breaks it down symbolically. A house, which is Bet, is built inside your head, which is Resh. So the true beginning isn't just about the creation of the world. It's about the moment a whole new way of thinking, a divine framework, gets built right inside your mind, replacing the old rickety one.
So let's just pause and make sure we get this, because it's the whole point. Resurrection isn't about bringing a corpse back to life. It is the complete replacement of your mind. It's like you're running on an old, glitchy operating system, and this is installing a brand new, powerful one. The old way of thinking literally dies, and a new consciousness boots up.
And again, the language itself backs this up. The Greek word for resurrection is anastasis. It literally means a rising up, or to stand up again. That sounds a lot more like a promotion, right? A shift to a higher level of being or understanding, not just restarting a physical machine.
So you can think of this whole mental upgrade as a change in law, like a change in your internal government. You go from living under the law of the first Adam, that's our default human setting, run by the ego, leading to that spiritual death, and you transition to the law of the last Adam. This new law is governed by this new, resurrected mind. It's a total regime change inside you.
Okay, that's a really profound idea,
But what does it actually look like to live that way? I mean, what are the results? Well, a life lived from this new mind is described as being incredibly tangible and full of purpose.
So what are the tangible results? Well, for starters, your entire sense of purpose changes. You're driven by something new. Second, that inner wall, that feeling of separation, it just comes down, and you find this state of unity and rest. Third, even the way you speak changes. Your words stop being just empty information, logos, and become life-giving, rima. And finally, there's this really interesting symbolic completion. Your old chaotic nature, represented by the number 1000, is brought into perfect divine order, represented by 144. It's a powerful metaphor for achieving total inner harmony.
And this quote, man, it just sums up the whole transformation in one powerful line. The beast I was, that stubborn, ego-driven ox, finally gets it. It learns the truth, and it reappears as something totally different, a son of light.
And so all of this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If this internal shift is the real resurrection, then the question for us isn't about some future event. The question is, what part of my own stubborn, isolated self needs to die today, right now, so that I can truly begin to live?